Okay, it's Monday, so it's time to answer some questions and play some fighting games. That's what it is. Android 21, Gogeta, and Broly. So first up, if money wasn't an issue, would you consider turning into a VTuber, or at the very least be open to having your very own 2D/3D avatar? Follow-up question, if you could design said VTuber avatar, what would your ideal avatar look like? I mean, I would, because, I wouldn't just use that flatly, but like, I'm doing like the video essay things, I'm still working on them, so I'd like use them for that, you know, instead. I don't think I'd do like full VTuber, but I would do like the set of like 2D avatars that you like cycle through as the video goes on, you know, to give the illusion that you're talking to the person, you know, when in fact it's just like a bunch of PNG files. I would do that. I don't know what I'd make them look like. What do I like? I mean, because it's got to be something I actually like. I don't want it to be, like, a fucking anthropomorphic animal, because, I mean, like, you know, which is what people usually go for. I don't know. It'd be something weird, probably. Like, I'd probably go with, like, it'd be some sort of fucking thing that I'm into. Like, it'd be like, it is, me as a space marine, or some shit like that. I don't know. I don't know what I'd make it look like, but I would do, like, the set of, like, 2D avatars if I could. Yeah. Next up. How much will playing other roles help me with my DPS role, i.e. tank and support? Those are the only two other roles. So, in terms of mechanics, this will help you very little. Because there isn't really that much crossover, skill-wise, between many heroes. Even within the same role, there isn't necessarily a huge amount of crossover. As far as, like, mechanics go, but it does help you have, like, a better understanding of the game, and it helps you become better at knowing more, like, tangentially helpful things. Because, you know, like, one of the best ways to, like, figure out how to play against someone is to play as that person, because then you learn what they're trying to do, and you learn what they hate having done to them. So that makes it easier for you to implement that knowledge against that person. And that can help you as well, because if you figure out, like, suppose you play tank, you play against a DPS that does something that really fucks you up, you're like, oh, I should do that when I play this DPS, you know, that kind of thing. An example I have is, like, not long after Overwatch came out, this was in, like, the first month or two, I was playing Reinhardt, and I still remember the moment pretty clearly, which was that I was on King's Row, I was playing Reinhardt, there's a McCree walking up to me, so I hold my shield up to block the flashbang, because he's gonna throw it over my shield, and as I lift it up, he throws it at my feet, because I lifted the shield up, so it gets me that way instead. And I'm like, huh, I never thought to do that. So, you know, you learn things like that by playing as, like, tank and healer. You learn little things that you can use as a DPS against these people. You'll also learn, like, playing support, like, gives you an appreciation for all the things you're probably doing that make supports mad, as well as tanks, but supports are usually, like, more upset by things than tanks are. It's just that tank players are just the worst people, and they'll yell about anything. Anyway, so it won't really help you in terms of DPS, but it will give you a greater sense of, like, game knowledge and, like, game sense through learning what works against certain, like, things you can do to make things, like, easier for your team and harder for the enemy team. But in terms of mechanics, it will help you very little. Even if you pick, like, two, like, really crossover-y heroes, like, I suppose, like, if you chose, like, Ash, Anna, there's, like, some crossover there, but, like, even then, those two heroes still play really differently to each other. Because people usually say one hit-scan hero will teach you to play another hit-scan hero. This is not actually true, because none of the hit-scan heroes even aim the same way, really. And that's not even getting into, like, their different use cases, which are also all different between the heroes as well. They, like, don't even aim the same way, and then it gets even worse from there. But it will help you, just not in terms of mechanics. It'll help you with other stuff, though. Next up, when to choose between Zarya and D.Va. So, Zarya is just generically a very good hero. There's basically no situations in which Zarya is a bad choice, assuming all other things in your team comp are going well. Like, yes, if the other tank has picked an off tank, you don't want to pick Zarya. You want to pick a main tank. But, like, if we're assuming you're picking an off tank because it is a good choice to pick an off tank, Zarya is basically always good. There are no situations in which Zarya is bad, really. D.Va has a more specific use case, which is basically, like, you're playing with a very aggressive team, so you want to obviously be an aggressive hero to go in with them. D.Va is just a good one to go with. Even Zarya can also help in that situation, by the way, but, you know. There's that. There's a lot of important things to defense matrix, so ultimates like Graviton, ultimates like Mei's ult, Pharah, even like McCree, Soldier, you know, these are ultimates that get pretty countered by defense matrix. So it's good in like those kinds of situations when you're trying to counterpick somebody like that. Though we have to assume that you're really good at using defense matrix this way, which is not necessarily true, but like it's good for that kind of thing. And it's also good for, like, punishing people who are out of position. So I guess if you notice, like, certain tendencies with the enemy team, you could pick D.Va to punish them because they're out of position a lot. D.Va's very good at, like, collapsing on somebody that's out of position and then, like, bursting them to death, because she does quite a big burst of damage when you immediately fly to someone, fire the rocket, shoot, and then bonk them in the face. That's a pretty chunky amount of damage. So you can punish people for being out of position. But, like, that's basically it. D.Va has, I guess, her ult has, like, some use as a defensive ultimate. As far as, like, tanks go, it's, like, the most defensive ultimate you really get, like, straight up defensive ultimate you get. Because you can use a lot of the, you can use Graviton defensively, but you really don't want to, you know? You don't want to use it on just the Genji, but sometimes you do. So there's like that, there's like defensive ultimate, you can use it to like scare people off. It does combo with some things, but it doesn't combo anywhere near as well as Graviton, right? So, you know. Those are basically the only reasons to pick D.Va over Zarya. Zarya is just generically a very good hero. There are no situations she's bad in, really. Which is, you know, this... I think this is the more overarching problem with Overwatch's balance, but also Blizzard in general, is, and to be fair, this is true of a lot of video games, it's not even really just these ones, where what makes a hero bad isn't even strictly that they themselves are bad, it's that the alternatives in their category are so good that it becomes impossible to justify picking those characters. Like, it's not really that D.Va's bad, it's just that in most situations, Zarya is just better. Because Zarya is just really good, you know? Is the problem with, like, most video games, if we're being honest. But with Overwatch, it's just like some heroes are so good, they just, like, drown out the alternative options. And then also, some characters can completely shut out other characters because they're too, there's a whole thing. People are too strong, is the gist of it. So if you start, like, playing a fighting game now, people tell you to just play whoever the fuck you want, really, because the bottom tier characters in the fighting game are really just not as good tier compared to the others, really. I play Android 21. Android 21 is literally just a worse version of Kid Buu. She's still fine. You can still definitely play Android 21. She's literally just a worse version of Kid Buu. They just try and do the same things. It's just Kid Buu's better at it, right? So it's like, it's not that she's bad. I've just chosen to play the less good tier version of that character. Because Kid Buu's an S tier character, so it's like, I'm playing like the A tier version instead of the S tier version. Because aesthetically, I like Android 21 a lot more than I like Kid Buu. Also, Kid Buu can go fuck himself. Anyway, next up. Anna, sleep discipline. Is it better to sleep Ball as soon as I see him or wait until he's aggressive? In general, it's not really worth sleeping anybody as soon as you see them, because you want to use your sleep for two reasons, and one of them is self-defense. As soon as you see them is probably not for self-defense. They probably just walked around the corner over there and you slept them. Or the other reason is because you can kill the guy. Those are the two reasons to use Sleep Dart, and as soon as you see the guy, probably fills neither of those issues, because you're probably not defending yourself. He's all the way over there, and you're probably not going to kill him because he's all the way over there. So it's not good to do that in general, regardless of versus Ball, because it fulfills neither category you're going for. With regards to Ball specifically, it's very hard to be in a situation where you sleeping Ball is going to kill him, because Ball is just hard to kill. It's just kind of his thing. He's hard to kill. So you're probably using it for self-defense. And the best time to do that is when he's being aggressive, right? Like, you know how it's gonna go. He's gonna throw himself at you, and he's gonna pile drive down at you, right? So what you do is, you look at where he's gonna pile drive, you look down at the ground in front of down at the ground where he's gonna land, you're gonna get lifted up, so your line of sight's gonna go up, and then you're gonna be able to trank him as soon as he lands. And then you've immediately completely fucked his aggression. That's what you do versus Ball. Unless you're a god and you can sleep him out of the air while he's charging the pile driver. That's better to do, but is also way fucking harder than just like, he's gonna land here, and you're just waiting for him to land, you know? It's also better to look at the ground, because then you don't have to adjust your aim, because if you're looking straight ahead, you have to look down when you go up, but if you're just already looking down, as soon as you go up, you're good to go. But with Anna, it's usually not good to sleep someone as soon as you see them. You either want to use it to save yourself, because it's one of your only defensive abilities, or because you can kill somebody, because it also has an aggressive application, because Crowd Control has an aggressive application always. Yeah, don't sleep anybody, like, as soon as you see them. Wait until they're aggressive or until you think you can kill them. Next up, overcoming performance anxiety? Question mark. This is a very common question in some variation at least, because you play a competitive game, you get a little anxious about it, you know? The problem is with this kind of question is that there are a great variety of things that people do, none of which necessarily makes any sense, but it works for you. Because anxiety is just kind of that way in general. In terms of, like, building up the courage to actually do something, you kind of just have to force yourself to do it. There's, like, no getting around it. This is how anxiety is. Everything seems like it's going to be terrible, and you don't want to do it. Then you force yourself to do it enough times, and you go, oh, this isn't actually as bad as I thought it would be. And it gets better. You just kind of have to force yourself to do it. There's not really many ways around that. As for what helps you get over that, I mean, you know, whatever works for you, I guess. Because, what I, like, this, like, it doesn't make any sense, but this is what I do when I start, because, like, if I'm trying to, like, shoot somebody, and I'm missing them, it gets, you know, it's stacking effect, like, oh god, it's the worst, oh Jesus Christ, this is terrible, I'm the worst. And then it starts getting worse, and where you aim even worse and worse and worse. So what I do is, in that moment, I take a deep breath, and I think of that scene from Star Wars, A New Hope, where he's doing the trench run, and he hears Obi-Wan's voice go, use the Force, Luke. That's what I do. I think about that in that moment, and that makes me feel better, okay? I aim better after that, alright? Does that make any sense? No, but that's what I fucking do. I do still kind of have this problem with fighting games, where I'll get, like, really, like, wound up and tense about it as, like, the games go on. I've noticed what I do with games in general, but I noticed that I specifically noticed I do this with fighting games, which is like, in between rounds, or while I'm waiting for the next characters to come on screen, I'll do this. So I guess I'm like shaking it off, you know? I guess. I only really noticed I do it quite recently, but like anything that kind of like shakes me, I just do that. I guess that's me like shaking it off. I don't know. It's what I do. Makes me feel better. I also have to very consciously like lower my shoulders because I start getting like more tensed up. So I have to very consciously like relax and lower my shoulders. Like what works for you as far as overcoming anxiety goes, there's a great variety of things you can do, most of which will only work for you. You just kind of have to figure it out. But as far as like forcing yourself to do it, like you just gotta you're just gonna have to kind of do it. And like really overcoming performance anxiety is like, oh god, people are gonna think I'm bad. I mean, what I try and bear in mind is just that like everybody you interact with in a video game, your team or the enemy team, effectively they cease to exist in like 20 minutes time. Because this will probably be your only interaction with them in your entire life. If you're like very high SR or very low SR, you'll run into people kind of regularly. If you play like a fighting game, inevitably you'll run into a lot of the same people because fighting games develop a niche fan base generally, right? Like, I know almost everybody that I play in Fighterz regularly at this point. I recognize a lot of the names. And I know what they're gonna do. It's helpful. So like maybe you'll see them like more frequently if you play like a fighting game. If you play like a first-person shooter like Overwatch, you'll see them once, maybe twice, unless you're in very high or very low SR. They effectively cease to exist in like 20 minutes time. So try and effectively you can think of them as just fictional people. They're not real. That's what I do. I'm not gonna... These people, they cease to exist as soon as the game ends. There they go. Goodbye. They no longer exist. Just try and bear that in mind, you know? It's not really worth getting too upset about people who are not real, you know? I know people get really upset about things that are not real, so maybe I shouldn't make that point. Next up, why shouldn't low ranks play meta? It's not really that they shouldn't, it's more that there's just bigger things to worry about. When you're in low SR, like, playing meta, the thing is that, like, sure, playing meta is good to do because it's meta for a reason. There's something about this particular team composition or character or what have you that it just works better, right? For whatever reason that is. Something about it works better. The problem is that you need to be able to, like, leverage why that's the case. And when you're in low SR, you probably can't, because if you don't know, like, if you don't have the appropriate game sense, mechanical skill, teamwork, coordination, whatever the fuck it is, right? There can be a whole variety of things. If you don't have the requisite thing you need, you can't really take advantage of why it's meta, because it will require at least some amount of personal skill to execute on it. And if you're in low SR, you probably don't meet that threshold. So it's just kind of not worth doing. There's probably bigger things for you to be worrying about than, like, what's the meta thing I should be doing right now. Instead of worrying about that, you should just be worrying about getting better at the game. You should be worrying about your game sense, your positioning, just improving your mechanical skill, right? Like, it's not worth worrying about the meta thing, what the meta thing to do is, because you have, like, more baseline issues you should be working on. Than, like, recognizing meta situations. So it's not necessarily that they shouldn't do it, it's just that, like, you got other things to worry about in low SRs. It's just not worth worrying about the meta thing. And, like, some people take it really far and they start worrying about people that aren't them doing the meta thing. Like, they're yelling at their teammates for not picking the meta thing. Like, you aren't able to take advantage of why it's meta, they probably can't either. Like, you're both in silver. Maybe relax about the meta, okay? Maybe worry about, like, not pushing Q when 5 of your teammates are dead first, you know? That might be a more, like, baseline issue that you should perhaps be worrying about instead. So, you know, it's not really that they shouldn't, it's just that, like, don't worry about it. There's other things to do. Like, if you want to do the meta, great, sure, good for you. Maybe you like the thing that's meta. Don't worry about, like, you like the thing that's meta, go for it by all means. Don't let me put you off doing it. I'm just saying you shouldn't worry about it being meta because you've got to worry about learning how to play the game still. So, you know, worry about that more. But if you want to do the meta thing, do the meta thing. Just don't get mad when other people don't do the meta thing. That's the bigger issue. So, next up, and this is the last question for this week, is how do I play versus people with much higher SR? So, the unfortunate answer for you here is that there's really no secret to this. There's no strategy you can give somebody who is, like, there's no strategy you can give somebody who's in golds that will beat somebody that's in platinum, you know? There's nothing you can do like that. So, in reality, if you end up in a game where you're matched against a bunch of people who are way higher SR than you, for whatever reason, it could just be that, like, you're playing at a weird time of day, you know, it could be that you're in, like, Diamond, so it starts having to pull some people from Grandmasters at some points like that, for whatever reason. If you're playing against people that are way higher SR than you, you're probably just gonna lose. Unless somebody on your team is a god or somebody on their team plays really badly, right? Like, it can even out in some other way, but, like, statistically speaking, you're probably gonna lose if you're playing against somebody that's a way higher SR than you, especially if it's multiple people. And there's really not much you can do about that. They're just better at you than the game. It's not impossible you're gonna win, but it is unlikely. So, in that kind of situation, rather than trying to win the game, it's better to set some kind of micro goal for yourself instead. Because you want to try and take whatever you can out of the game possible, right? This is in general a good thing to try and do, is set micro goals for yourself while you're trying to improve. Which doesn't really matter what it is. It can be it's very permeable to whatever is relevant to you. But if we're playing Overwatch, suppose you think to yourself, you know, I die because I'm out of position a lot. So I'm gonna set a goal for myself this game. I'm gonna try and not get caught out of position more than 2-3 times. Something like that. You set this, like, micro goal for yourself. I'm playing Zarya. I'm gonna try and get at least a 4-man graph this game. You know, you try and set, like, some goal for yourself in that game for you to work on, because winning is not realistic for one reason or another. If you're playing against people who are way higher than you, you're probably not going to win. You should set a micro goal for yourself. Sometimes you just realize you're not going to win the game for whatever other reason as well. Not even necessarily because of that. You just set this mini goal for yourself instead. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to try and do this thing. So I can at least take something out of this game anyway, you know. And it's good to do that in general. Like, this is a good practice to engage in while you're trying to improve at any game, really. To set these goals for yourself. If you're playing, like, a fighting game, you can say something to yourself like, man, I'm really bad at blocking overheads. So this game, I'm going to focus really hard. I'm going to block every overhead that guy tries to do, and I'm not going to worry about anything else. Fighting game players in general are pretty good at doing this because it can become very apparent very quickly you're not going to win this set. So instead, it's better to set some kind of goal for yourself, like, this guy's throwing me a lot, I'm going to try and tech every throw from this point on. You set these mini goals for yourself. And it's just good to do that in general, but, like, if you're playing against higher SR people, this is what you should do. I'm really bad at shield management. I'm not going to let my shield break again this entire game. That's it. No more breaking from this point on. You know, anything really. I'm playing Widow. I'm going to try and get at least one hookshot scoped kill. You know, whatever. It can be whatever the fuck you want it to be. Whatever the fuck mini goal you have. It can be something you're trying to do. It can be something you're trying to prevent happening to you or your teammates. I'm playing McCree. They've got a bunch of channeled ultimates. I'm going to try and interrupt at least one of them this game. You know, anything like that. It could even be like, you know, that really high SR guy over there. I'm going to try and beat him in a duel at least once. You know, it can be whatever the fuck you want it to be. And this is good to do in general. But, like, that's the best thing you can really do. versus higher SR people. Because there's nothing you can really do to, like, swing it in your favor as far as winning goes, you know? You're really just praying. So it's better to set your goals a little lower in that situation. So yeah, that's all I got for you. So now I gotta wait for this game to finish right here. Some real clowny shit has been happening in the background also. This has been a real disaster, to be honest. He fucking knocked me up and then just immediately did his level 3. It's a fucking command grab, and he just did it on the ground, because he, like... I've done that before myself. I know what he did. Such is life. That's one I'm terrible at, is, like, down-heavying them out of the super dash. I'm terrible at it. I also can't take a throw to save my life. I am very good at, people like to do the double overhead. They jump at you with the overhead, they land, and then they just do another overhead again immediately to try and catch you. I'm very good at clapping them out of that, because people love to do the double overhead in Fighterz. Can't tech a throw to save my life, though. I would change this power if possible. I would rather tech every throw than be able to clap them out of the double overhead. But hey, you don't get to choose what your superpower is, unfortunately. So thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, please communicate via your method of choice. A comment, ESP, the Discord, an email, seismic tremors, anything's good. Maybe a fucking biplane, a little message in the sky. I've started streaming on Twitch Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 p.m. EST to 11 EST. There's a link to the channel in the description. If you managed to make it all the way through the video and someone enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future, and I hope you found the video helpful.